12:05 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. It's Wednesday. That means it's Joe Steckler Day, helping seniors of Brevard. And here's your host of the show, Joe Steckler. Hi, Joe.
Hi, John. Thank you. And welcome to this Wednesday edition of Helping Seniors. You know, Helping Seniors was designed to inform, educate, and connect seniors and those that care for seniors with the resources that they needed to take care of the person. And we have not changed from that original intent at all. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today, but I want to make sure that people understand that our services are brought to you through the generous sponsorship of several organizations, and they're listed in Helping Seniors magazine, and are also listed on our. If you go to our website, helpingseniorsofbrevard.org, you can find out about our many wonderful sponsors, and you can find out about all our television shows, our radio shows, all our newsletters, everything that we've done. It's all archived. So if you need information, and we're getting a lot of people that call us, and they tell us that they are finding what they need on our website, and it helps them a whole heck of a lot. But some of the sponsors include organizations like Hibiscus Court, Zon Beachside Assisted Living Facility. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the second part of the show. We have some programs that come from there. Bill Johnson, elder law attorney, and our guest today, it's on the radio with us. You there, Lee?
I'm here, Joe.
Yeah, Dr. Lee Sheldon, and I know you've changed the name, I think, on your sign over there, but I always know it as Solid Bite Dental Implants. And
we're
I guess
still Solid Bite. We're Solid Bite everything. So we're Solid Bite.
Okay, you're Solid Bite, but I want to make sure people know that you've clamped down on us early in our organizational development, and you and Bill Johnson, in fact, have been with me on the air longer than anyone else. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, no.
Did you know that, Lee?
So that means that I have longevity?
You means you have a lot of longevity, and it means that you've brought a lot of knowledge to the newspaper circuits, to our newspaper, to our letters, to the radio, to the television, to all of it. And if I can always look to get into it in an intelligent argument, I'll call it an intelligent discussion on aspects of dentistry. And I can always manage to find you to do it.
Yeah, you're right. I will.
I know, but,
but
you know, Lee.
But what, Joe? Come on, let's hear it.
Well, listen. Before we discuss, now let's just for a minute today, before we get started, remember what day today is, and you know, it's September 11th. It's the 18th anniversary of the bringing down of the Twin Towers. The big hole that was put into the ground at Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the big hunk that was taken out of the Pentagon. And you know, it's hard to describe how you feel sometimes, because everybody's got their own definition about what we call people, and this business of radicals and Muslims and everything else. And I guess I don't understand it, because I happen to be a Catholic, and I understand what my religion is, just as you're a Jewish and you understand what your religion is. Kerry is. What are you?
Well, we just say non-denominational Christian charismatic.
But you understand what the Bible is.
Absolutely.
You understand what all this stuff says.
And it says love your neighbor. It doesn't say take their buildings down.
Yeah, it doesn't say kill them.
No.
So anyway, but I would like to just ask everybody to think about that and pray to the person that you call your God, and who you recognize as the person that you pray to, and just sometime during a day today, just say a short prayer for all those people, those 3,000 souls that were killed, and in addition to the many, many thousands that we're finding in later years that have been affected by the gases and what came out of the explosion. We just never know. It's just like it's just like all our veterans that now the Veterans Association has come out and said that Agent Orange, who is not limited to being spread over the ground, has affected sailors or on ships at sea. And they found the burn pits with arsenic and stuff now in Afghanistan and Iraq that are affecting our veterans that are coming home from those wars. And whether we like to admit it or not, I think it's something like, I think we've been in Vietnam, not Vietnam, but Afghanistan, something like 18 or 19 years, darn near as long as ago as the Twin Towers came down. What were you doing at that time, Lee? You remember?
Yeah, actually, I was in my office on that day, and then heard what occurred, and then I went across the street to a restaurant was there at that time, and then I saw what was going on because we didn't have any TV in our office. And I remember going home on that day, and I said, I said to my son Matthew, who was probably in junior high school at that time, I said, for me it was the Kennedy assassination. For you, it is going to be September 11th. This is going to be the negative moment, or the moment that you'll recall when you're thinking of all things negative. And I think that is what came about. I totally agree with you with regard to religion, and unfortunately things are done in the name of religion when even Muslims wouldn't subscribe to anything that was stated here. I think we all have the same God. I think we have different ways of reaching that God, but we all have the same God. And to take religion or to take God and defend your actions based on God, I think that in itself is reprehensible, and I think everybody with sound mind would agree with that. And that being said, I think today, particularly when we recall what has occurred, and yes, we have been in Afghanistan for 18 years, in Iraq almost the same amount of time. There is a question in everyone's minds: what are they getting out of this, and why are we doing this? And there's some things we do know, and some things we don't know. Joe, you were in the military. You know some things that, at least at that time, you did, that the general public didn't know, and so we have to, in some regard, have faith in our leaders that, in fact, our leaders are hopefully making the right decisions for us.
Well, I think, Lee, before I forget it, I want to say something about a comment on something you said, and I really, really, really liked the way you said it. You talked about we all have different ways of reaching our God, and that's extremely important. And while you have Kerry might have a comment about what were you doing that day, Kerry?
Well, it's funny because we were living in Manhattan at the time, and that morning, and this is one of those but for the grace of God stories, Tammy and I were hopping on a Continental flight out of Newark Airport, Terminal B, as it would happen to be, that morning, and we were flying to Chicago on a day trip. And at the time, we were operating a Music of Your Life radio network, so we had working with radio stations all over the country. On this particular day, it was a beautiful morning. We were looking from the from the Continental Crown Room, or whatever they call it there, across and looking at the New York City skyline, because there's those beautiful white twin towers, and just a beautiful day for flying, not a cloud in the sky. And so we hop on the airplane from the same terminal that one of the flights took off from. So for all we know, we're standing in the security line with these goofballs when they came rolling through. And so our flight was actually the last flight that was able to land where it was intended to land, which was Chicago's Midway Airport. And so over the flight, now piecing it backwards, the pilot comes on about halfway through the flight, and he said, look outside right now. This is a beautiful part of Pennsylvania. We added up later that was where he was trying to explain, sort of in code, this is where this flight went down. And when we landed, they didn't say anything, but we hot-rodded into the gate. We get out of there. We didn't know anything was going on. We go out to the curb. Now, mind you, this is a day trip. We're flying out in the morning. It's a sales call, and we're going to come back take like a 5 o'clock flight back to New York City. So we run out to get the rental car bus, and they're not letting any cars near the airport. So there's no news on. There's nothing going on in the airport. So we have no idea what's going on. We get out. We get on the little rental car bus, which we had to cross over several barriers. You had to literally like exit the Midway airport to catch this shuttle bus. Tammy and I get on the shuttle bus to go over and pick up our car. As we get there, they're playing the radio, and something about the Twin Towers has been hit by an airplane. So Tammy's like, what's going on with that? And so we're thinking like, well, this must be War of the Worlds or something. It must be some play or something the guy's listening to. And so as we start talking amongst ourselves in the bus, no, there's been a report a plane hit the Twin Tower. And so we get over to the Alamo rental car place, and now there's pandemonium over there. There's no cars for anybody or anything like that. They're showing this Twin Towers on TV. And Tammy goes, where's the other Twin Tower? And it was already gone. And about that time, we saw the other one collapse, live on TV like we all did. And it was just an amazing thing. Everybody in Chicago thought we're under attack. Something, somebody's going to go hit the Hancock Tower, or at the time it was the Sears Tower. So somehow the good Lord was with us. We got a rental car, and we're trying to figure out what are we going to do now, because we didn't pack toothbrushes or anything. Remember, this is out in the morning, fly back in the afternoon. We get in the car, so we call the lady that we're supposed to have the appointment with. It's a radio station that we were literally just making a sales call on out in Crystal Lake, Illinois. So we give them a call. And I said, I don't know, we just landed. We don't know what's going on. We were supposed to have an appointment with you. What do you want to do? Do you want to cancel it? Do you want to keep it? She's just like, you guys flew all the way. Y'all come on out. So we got out there, and, of course, everybody is focused on the news. And this shows you how good people really are under pressure, because we had arrived there, and she said, well, what are you guys doing? Are they going to let you fly back? We said, we have no idea. She goes, can you guys get a hotel room? Do you need us to get you a hotel room? She goes, we're going to make some calls to see if we can get you guys a hotel room. And she goes, we'd never met her before, but she goes, if they can't get you a hotel room, you guys are going to come stay with us tonight. So we went they did get a hotel room. We got to stay there. And, as you remember, it was like maybe flights are on, maybe flights are not on. We got to, be there for the whole, I guess it was 2 or 3 days. Called Alamo. They said, no, you can drive your car back to New York City and you can return it there. Because we had, at that time, really small kids staying with my mother in New York City while we were traveling. So it was just an amazing thing, because there were so many, I call them God moments along the way. Because on September 10th, you couldn't pray at all. But on September 11th, everybody was praying. And it was just amazing. You saw banners as we drive the freeway going back to New York City. People were hanging out, God bless the USA banners over every overpass. It was really an amazing experience. And as we got back to New York City, if you remember, they kept having more attack warnings. So they would open the airport, or they would open the tunnels and they would close the tunnels. They would open the tunnels, close the tunnels. Thank God we got through the tunnel. We got back home and everything was fine. It took us a week before we gathered everybody, because at the time our offices were on the 73rd floor of the Empire State Building facing south. So our view every morning was looking south to see the Twin Towers in the south of Manhattan. So a week later, we gathered up the staff and we said, we need to go back in. And at the time, think about this. Everybody, put yourself back in that moment. Everybody was afraid of everything at that time. And so we thought, well, for sure, we're the next target. There's a big red target painted on the Empire State Building because we're the other landmark in New York City. So we went back in there, and there was fire warnings every day that we had to evacuate for like weeks afterwards. But the amazing thing, I remember when Tammy walked in, it was just, she said it, we knew it, but she goes, where are they? Where are the buildings? Because it's just like for years we looked at that view and all of a sudden there's nothing but a pile of smoking rubble. But I will tell you this, people say New Yorkers are not friendly, but what we discovered was the town for a period of time became incredibly friendly. People that you would see that would never speak each other on the street would take a moment and say, how are you doing? And they really meant it. They really meant it. And it It was how people come together under grace at a time of pressure. And to be honest, we just dodged a major bullet here, as we all know. That hurricane was making a beeline for us here just the other week. And thank God we were spared. But I believe, really, as bad as it is for the Bahamas, I believe that same spirit. I saw how New York City came together. People come together, and it makes us tougher, stronger, and better. It was a good experience to go through, but a horrible thing to have to live through.
John, where were you? Remember?
Sure, I was right in the radio station at WMAL, and we were broadcasting all of the coverage live at the time, of course, and in total disbelief as to what was going on, and we decided to suspend all of our programming and concentrate on airing the network programming from ABC Radio, which we were an affiliate at that time. And then in the afternoon, we went live with our local talk shows and took phone calls and helped to hopefully ease in the disbelief that everyone had in our area, in the country, in the world, as to what was going on. We got many guest experts on the air to talk about the attack, and we did that for several days while people were going through the grieving process and the disbelief process as to what was happening. So I was right in the radio station at WMAL.
Okay. Hey, Lee, are you still there?
Yeah, I was. I was going to bring up something.
Did I ask you where you were?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you did ask me where I was. At that time, by the way, I was president of Temple Beth Shalom. And so very soon, within a day or two, we decided that we would have a memorial service.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't believe the number of... I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say I couldn't believe it, because when I was a kid at the Kennedy assassination, 2 days later, the entire Jewish community came together in Springfield, Massachusetts. And we went to the Jewish Community Center, and at that time every room was filled with the Jewish Community Center, and whatever the service was being piped in. Then the same thing occurred at Temple Beth Shalom. People who you would never see showed up for this memorial service, which the rabbi very deftly put together very quickly, because there's no such thing really as a memorial service for something like this, but put together some great readings. And I think, when we're talking about these days people not going to church, not going to synagogue, that we're much more into a secular society now. And of course, this is a Christian radio station, so the listeners to this radio station wouldn't necessarily subscribe to that, but themselves. But we're seeing that in society. It's unfortunate that it takes a tragedy, and a tragedy of this magnitude, for people to come back and find that the greatest solace they may be able to get, or at least some solace they will be able to get, is out of religion, out of our religious institutions. It's too bad that a tragedy has to occur in order to be able to get us back to where our reality should be, but in fact that's what occurs.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. I was doing something I never have done again. At that point, I was doing a fundraising talk over at Florida Power and Life for some of their middle people over there for the United Way, and that was the first and last time I had done it. And but I can remember somebody said something, and I went into another room and I saw watched on the television as the towers came down, and. I thought back to the 38 years I had spent in the military, and I was very angry because I was now a civilian again, and I was not in a position to be able to do anything about it. But we all express anger, sorrow, hate, discontent in so many different ways, and I guess that's what makes us Americans. That makes what makes us what we are. And but I think the spirit of all, it makes any difference if you're Jewish, Christian, atheist, or whatever it is. when they threaten our country, we all come together, and that's something we do. And the same thing we do that in terms of helping people. I made a comment earlier in the show. I said something about realizing now how much of a need that we have in Brevard County. We have a new education specialist over at that's answering the phones now, and she has about 11 years of experience. Kim Bernard is our new specialist, and she has about 11 years of experience as a paralegal, and that's something we didn't have before. And so she knows where to look things up from a legal aspect of it, and believe me, it throws a whole new light on advice you give and how you handle different situations. And I can tell all you listeners that I've been in this care business for almost 30 years now, since I retired from the Navy, and I have never experienced any period in this time of a greater need for help for people from so many different aspects, and a lot of it is understanding. And while it may not seem like much, I asked Dr. Sheldon a question last night on the internet about our radio show today, and he came back with 9 points to discuss. But one of the most important things that he brought out to me, and it was something I didn't realize that I didn't understand in myself, Dr. Sheldon. When we talk about periodontics and we talk about endodontics, I didn't realize really what the difference was. And so many times, as I grew up, if a person had a toothache, you yanked the darn tooth. You thought that was the problem. You yanked that tooth out. And many times, had there been the same type of desire to develop information about dentistry as we did about cancer, heart disease, putting a heart in somebody, using pig valves and everything else, if we'd have done the same thing with the aspect of performing dentistry, because it is, when you think about it, there are some major things that you can do to the face, to the mouth, and everything else, and I think that's still important, Lee. And does that make sense, what I'm saying to you?
Well, I think we've got to take prevailing attitudes. Yes, it does make sense. We've got to take prevailing attitudes. Remember what you'd remember it better than Kerry and I would, Joe, but the prevailing attitude in the 40s and 50s is that if there was too much damage, you were going to lose the teeth anyway. And so let's just plan on extracting teeth on the way to your getting full dentures. That was a prevailing attitude at that time. And so when people said, no, I don't want this, remember, the professions are developed because of patients' demands. While the science may be there, the science isn't going to take hold, meaning the science of saving teeth isn't going to take hold unless people have the desire to save teeth. So finally in the 60s, and there becomes a critical mass of people who decide, of patients, who decide, no, extraction is not what I want. I want to save my teeth. I don't want to wear plastic wigs on my gums. Then you see the science developing even... I hear music.
Hey Lee, can you hold it there? We've got to take our Midshow break, and I don't want to miss out on this because you kind of died out. But remember where you were. Hold that thought and bring it back on, and we come on the other side of the break. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. We're going to take a short break, folks, and then we're going to come back because we got a heck of a lot to talk about. We're going to get it all in today.
12:34 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. It's Wednesday. That means it's Joe Steckler Day, helping seniors of Brevard. And once again, here's your host, Joe Steckler.
Welcome to the second half of this the show for this Wednesday, folks. I'll say it again, Helping Seniors is designed to help people find ways to help people and get you connected to those services. And we do it through a number of methods. And the way to do it, you call our office at 321-473-7770. That's 321-473-7770. And you can also go to our website, helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. I mentioned that Dr. Sheldon and Bill Johnson have been some of our longest supporters. And we also have a couple of other organizations that have been with us from the very beginning of this part of the show, especially the Helping Seniors part of it. And that's the Vitas Hospice, the Eye Institute, Velton Financial Resources, and Riverview Retirement Center, and there are a whole host of others. I can't mention everybody on the show. It would just take too much time. But you can go to our website and see all the many wonderful organizations. And the thing about it, folks, is that the people that, generally speaking, the people that support us are the people that support seniors as they get older. And that's extremely important. I think we're now on the verge of having 3 handymen, and one is the father-son organization that are going to be our sponsors. And I'm truly delighted to have them, because there are so many seniors that simply just need a light bulb changed, and they're afraid to get up on a ladder. And it's smart to be afraid to get on a ladder or climb up on a countertop, which is, again, very smart, because if you lose your balance and fall, you end up killing yourself. And that's it's just sad to say that so many seniors are killed by falls that they don't have to occur or bring about if they use their heads just a little bit. And in fact, I went to a restaurant, coming out of a restaurant on Sunday morning after church. We'd had breakfast, and there was a lady watching me sort of crawl through the restaurant with a table and a cane, and she said to me, she said, "You need a rollator." And I said, "I have one in the car, and I didn't use it this morning." And she said, "You should use it all the time." And I said, "You're right, I should, and I will." Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how many people will call attention to different things that people do, and that's the same thing. So, Dr. Sheldon, you were discussing something, and I want you to pick back up on that thought, because I would like also for you to work into this second part of the discussion, just what the heck it is when you say periodontal care and endodontical care, because people don't understand that. They just don't understand what they could do and how you can save a tooth, and why it is important to save a tooth, and why it's important at times to take the tooth out. And it's a thing that people need to understand more about. It's not like somebody saying you got to open your chest up and do a 4-valve bypass or you're not going to live. It's not that same threatening, but it could be the cause of a lot of problems and a lot of personal problems and how you feel in appearance if you don't take care of your mouth. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we're looking at this as this as opposed to the operating on the chest. Dental care, for the most part, is elective care. We can always go back to where we were in the 30s and 40s and 50s, where we extract the teeth and put in dentures. You can do that. It's the less expensive care, and that's still available. But it's because of the demand of patients that they want to save teeth that we develop saving measures such as periodontal care, which is an infection around the tooth, which is, if it's untreated, the tooth will get loose and come out, or endodontic care, which is an infection on the inside of the tooth, affecting the nerve of the tooth, killing the nerve of the tooth, and creating an infection that way. So there are ways of saving teeth, and many teeth. And of course, that's really the topic of today's discussion. Is many teeth can be saved, but people, and I'm talking about doctors now, I'm talking about dentists, choose to extract them in favor of something like dental implants, which, as you know, I do for a living. But they choose to extract them too early, too often, and the recommendation for extraction has become greater since the advent of dental implants. And it's too bad, because there are many teeth that we can save as predictably or probably more predictably than we can putting in a dental implant. That's the difficulty that we have right now.
Lee, how
many
does
teeth are being extracted?
How does just tell our listener, as a periodontist, what do you do to treat a tooth to help save that tooth as a periodontist, as opposed to what an endodontist might do what's the connection between the root canal and the periodontal care?
They don't connect. They don't, because the root canal is going through the center of the tooth, to a hollow tube in the center of the tooth, and the periodontal treatment is a deterioration of the outside of the root where the root is joining the bone. So they don't meet except when things get so severe that the end of the root connects with the deterioration of the bone, and then it becomes a real question as to whether that tooth can be saved or not. So hopefully they never connect. Hopefully we get to the periodontal disease in time so that we don't have that problem, or we get the root canal done when the tooth dies and not wait too long so we don't have the connection between the two. And that's a matter of diagnosis. So if you want to know what we do, I'd say if you're seeing a specialist, and the same holds true for a general dentist, but of course the reason for specialists is because of advanced needs, advanced care. The first thing we do is diagnosis. You know, a patient loses bone support for the tooth. Well, that just doesn't happen. And it isn't just genetic. There has to be a bacterial infection that's causing that. Well, the first question I would ask is, what bacteria is there? Maybe we can use an antibiotic in order to be able to help assist stopping this bone loss from occurring. So if there's bacteria there, the first thing I do is have a patient spit in a cup, send out the saliva sample out to a laboratory, and find out what bacteria is growing there first. These days, because of the association between those bacteria and heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, liver disease, pulmonary disease, diabetes, it's really important to know what bacteria is growing there before you treat it. So I'd say the first thing I do is think. Not the first thing. The first thing I do is not do. I think. And then once I have the results and I know what bacteria is growing there, I can prescribe the correct antibiotic to take care of the bacteria that might be in the gum tissue around the tooth. The rest of it is the tooth itself. The tooth has accumulated a lot of crud. The body doesn't want to be anywhere near that crud, and so the bone melts away from that crud, and my whole goal is to remove all of that crud below the gum line so that the gum and the bone want to heal back up against the tooth. And that has amazing results. Greater than 95% of the teeth that we think we can treat, we actually can treat and hold them in the mouth comfortably for a long period of time rather than extract these teeth in favor of dentures or in favor of dental implants.
Well, Lee, since there are more general dentists in our country than there are specialists, I would estimate there probably are. Can a general dentist do periodontal type care or not?
A general dentist can do early type of periodontal care. In other words, if there's the identification of small periodontal pockets or small areas of tissue loss and bone loss around the tooth, the general dentist can do that. And the general dentist and his hygienist can very well get that disease under control. But if that disease goes deeper, then it's incumbent upon the general dentist to refer the patient to a specialist, to refer the patient to a periodontist, because the periodontist has more advanced technology, more advanced diagnostic skill, and more advanced treatment skill to be able to help save a tooth. And as I said in previous shows, there are not enough referrals going to periodontists now. That's number one. Number two, general dentists are making the decision to extract periodontally involved teeth. And by the way, oral surgeons are doing the same thing. They're making decisions to extract teeth when, in fact, the periodontist has never been consulted, and number two, where a periodontist could have saved those teeth. And that's a problem. So it becomes incumbent upon the patient to seek out a periodontist if the patient knows he or she has periodontal disease.
Okay, but if a person, since we all know more through looking on the internet and finding out what some of this stuff is, and we think that we begin to understand this, I think it could cause a lot of dangers. And one of the dangers I might think is the fact whether or not, if a person, when we get down to talk about some serious problems about gum disease and below the tooth level, it hurts like heck when you go down and do a deep cleaning, and these things are not...
No, it does not, Joe. It does not hurt like heck. It does not hurt at all. You get the area numb, and you clean it out and clean it out properly, and it's a very, very mild procedure, not a painful procedure at all.
Well, how does a person... Let's say that I went to a general dentist, and the guy told me that I had periodontal disease, and I said, well... Should I go to a specialist, or what can you do? He said, well, I can treat it. And how would I know, just as dumb old Joe going to the dentist and sitting there and have that guy poke on my teeth and my jaw and my gums and everything else, how do I know if the treatment is being successful or not? How do I know when to leave there and go to a specialist such as you? How do I know that?
I think the first question is, could I see a copy of my periodontal chart, which is a chart of measurements of periodontal pockets, the depth of the pockets between the gum and the tooth.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Pockets of 5 millimeters or greater, and those pockets don't resolve after the general dentist treatment. In other words, general dentist should be doing the treatment. Then you go back and remeasure, and if the pockets do not get better, if they stay the same, it's time to go to a periodontist.
So
if the pockets are deeper than 5 millimeters, you should be going to a periodontist anyway.
So if a person doesn't listen to a show like us, like we're talking about today, and they have serious problems, I keep telling people, go to the internet, take a look at the internet, see what the internet tells you, because there's so many things the internet can tell us today that we didn't know 20 or 30 years ago. And I certainly wouldn't have known to look up periodontal care and what it means and what should I be thinking about if I need that kind of care. But I guess the how does the general public become educated? You write articles in our newsletter. It's published in Senior Scene magazine. It goes to 12,000 copies a month, go to 500 locations. We think about 40,000 people read it, but there are 640,000 people in Brevard County, but in dealing with seniors, I have found that there are so many people that just don't know what they can do to help themselves early on and even late on. It's never too late to try to fix some of this stuff, is it?
Well, there are some times when it's late. That's why I do dental implants. But my argument is that the extraction of of teeth and extracting them too early to preserve the bone for dental implants is a bogus excuse. It doesn't occur, yet that excuse is made by the general dental population all the time, saying, well, you're losing bone, and therefore we got to get this tooth out and put a dental implant in before we've lost too much bone. That argument, for the most part, I mean, sometimes it can occur, but for the most part, that argument is a totally fraudulent, bogus argument. And so if you are going to lose teeth, or if you're told that, particularly if you have a tooth that's not loose and it's not painful, and you're told you need to have that tooth taken out, run to a periodontist. Run. Because it's not bothering you. There's no life-threatening infection. It's the perfect time for a periodontist to take a look at a tooth and see whether, in fact, the tooth can be saved, whether it can be saved predictably or not.
Well, you know, and I know that when we start talking about dental implants, it makes more sense. You've done 3 on me.
Yep.
And I was thinking about this last night as I read the questions you had sent to me. And I was rubbing my tongue along the inside of my mouth, and just the implants feel like they're part of my natural mouth. And I think that, and you and I have talked about this, and you've written about it. You know, it's entirely possible. If a person doesn't know what they're doing, putting an implant in, you can go through the jaw, you can drill through it, you can do all kinds of things and cause some serious problems. And
well, you can. I'm assuming that most people are going to put implants. I hope they're going to do it well. Although I do have a concern that people who are not surgically trained all of a sudden take a 3-day course and feel they know how to put in dental implants. I have a lot of difficulty with that. But that's what's being done, and then they take more and more courses, and they get better and better and better. Essentially, That's the way training works in dentistry. You've got periodontists who go to school for 3 years. All they do is diagnosis and surgery for those 3 years, and when they graduate, they're entitled to put in dental implants. This is 3 years after 4 years of dental school, so they've gone a total of 7 years, and you have a general dentist who graduates and can take a 3-day course and can start putting dental implants in. So who do you want to see? You want to see the guy who's trained for 3 years in surgery, or do you want to see the guy who's taken a weekend course? You know, you don't have the same credentialing in dentistry that you do in medicine. And so the same argument holds true for doing root canals. The same argument holds true for doing periodontal treatment. The guy who's trained, or the woman who's trained for 3 years beyond dental school to do a root canal, or is trained for 3 years beyond dental school to assess periodontal needs and determine what the best periodontal treatment is that person more qualified or less qualified than the person who doesn't have that 3 extra years of training?
Yeah, but, you know, having said everything that we're talking about this morning, or this afternoon, I happen to know that Dr. Sheldon would prefer to save a tooth as opposed to extracting a tooth and putting an implant in if it's at all possible to save a tooth, Lee.
That's correct. And it doesn't mean that we're saving a tooth that shouldn't be saved. We're saying a tooth that can be saved for 5, 10, 15, 30 years. And I can tell you that in my career, I've seen several patients since the 1980s who were told in the 1980s they had to have their teeth extracted, and they still have the teeth. You know, well, did they need to have their teeth extracted in the 1980s? And the answer is there are plenty who did.
Mm. But at least you can also make the argument.
They were told, well, you need to have them out, and they never had the benefit of seeing a specialist first to see whether those teeth needed to come out or not. It was just assumed that. And it's even worse now because we see the commercials on TV, these romantic commercials that you can take out the teeth and put in implants all in the same day, and everything's going to be right, beautiful. And in a 1-minute commercial, everything is great. And for some of these patients, everything is great. And for some of these patients, it's the worst decision they could have made, and they could have saved the teeth rather than go through all that time and expense.
Okay. We got a couple other things we're going to talk about today, and I want you to stay with us because you're going to probably do one of these things. But after all is said and done, I happen to believe that doctors like you that are experienced and have invested a lot of money in equipment and taking care of people, I'd much rather have a person that has that kind of knowledge do an implant on me as opposed to somebody that does it as a part of general dentistry, because I know in the years that I have discussed the subject with you that it costs more to do things that are more involved. And I would argue the point that the same as having a skilled heart surgeon work on my heart is having a dentist that had that kind of capability to work on my mouth, and that a person such as you, or doctors that have trained and done such as you, if they can save the tooth, they're going to save the tooth. They're not going to recommend putting an implant, but an implant is always a backup, correct?
Yeah, in my opinion, the implant is the backup from.
Okay, let me ask.
Cases, yeah.
Okay, let me ask Kerry a question because you're a part of this too. We'll let Kerry, and Kerry's got to. You got to get to this quick, Kerry. We started this new senior resource center over in Zon Beachside Assisted Living Facility. And we're going to be putting a series of seminars on over there, and they'll be strictly focused on types of care. And perhaps, Kerry, you could talk a little bit about it, tell us what's happening and how it's important to our general public, and how you can see how Lee might be involved too in the future.
No, absolutely. So, as the organization that heads up the Senior Resource Center of Brevard, which is that beautiful new facility that they've constructed over at Zon Beachside, we're doing a series of community information events. That the first one is coming up in just a few weeks. So I'm going to give you a second. Grab a pencil because you'll want to write down this date. The first one is happening Wednesday, September 26th, and it happens from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And the idea is these are supposed to be fast, quick overviews to get you information that is going to help you make good decisions on your own aging plan. So the very first one that comes up, again, Wednesday, September 26th, is called Find It at Senior Resource Center of Brevard. And we're actually going to have a great, I would call it a smorgasbord of the people who make up the Senior Resource Center. We'll be there from helping seniors. There'll be somebody from, I think, Amy Van Fossen from the law offices of Amy Van Fossen is going to be there. Debbie Fisher, who's a partner with Helping Seniors at Brevard Relocate Realty, will be speaking, and many others, including Greg Kennedy from Zon Beachside. So it's going to be just kind of an overview of all the things that are able to be found at the Senior Resource Center. And, of course, our own education specialist, Kim Bernard, is there. So a couple other dates that you want to keep in mind, too. October 9th is going to be the next one that follows up. These are going to happen basically 2 times a month. The one on October 9th, and this is going to be interesting, hurricane preparedness, good things to know. So we were very fortunate that we skipped this one, but as you know, we live in an area where understanding all the things relative to hurricanes are going to be very, very important. And this isn't just practical tips, by the way. It's not just, make sure you have batteries and fresh water. These are actually things that have to do with the paperwork, that if you lost your paperwork, think about the people in the Bahamas trying to come to the United States who lost all their paperwork. They can't prove who they are. These are the kind of things that are going to be part of this discussion on October 9th. And then on October 26th, we're going to have a session on open enrollment. So as you know, your mailbox is going to be flooded soon. Right. You're going to see all this stuff coming in your mailbox. Sign up for this plan, sign up for that plan. And those are the things we're going to cover. If you want to get involved, call us 321-473-7770. 321-473-7770. We'll get you RSVP'd. That will get you in the door for free, and they'll even buy you lunch.
Yeah, if the first ones to call it by a certain date, we'll get a free lunch. It's on. And boy, folks, they have the best cookies in town.
Yes.
They have the best cookies in town. And I have to tell you that. And I will ask Greg to put out some of those special cookies.
Yes.
That day.
Good.
It's just a marked day. How much time we got left, John? Oh, we only got a minute. Okay. Next week, folks, we'll talk some about, there's a couple of new scams. Well, not new, but we'll go into more detail, but it's the missed jury duty scam, and the other is a credit card security scam. And I'll just remind people once again, it's just about out of time, so I'll wind the show down today, John and Kerry and Lee. And I want to thank you, Lee, for being on with us today, okay?
Thanks, Joe.
Okay. But I just want to remind people, if you get somebody calling you on a telephone that says, you give me $50, I'm going to give you $100, hang up.
Right.
Hang up. It does not happen, folks. People don't give away money on the phone like that. And if somebody sends you an email or calls you on the phone and says you've done a credit card thing, or you've done what was it? I think real quick. Social Security or Social Security stuff, tax stuff, folks. Tax stuff comes to you in the mail, official mail, not somebody calling you on the phone. You get calls like that. Hang up. I'm getting the signal to hang up, so I'm going to hang up. And I want to thank Lee for being with us, Kerry on the show, John for moderating. And I'll thank myself for being here today. And we'll see you next week, and we'll have another show next week, folks. Stay with us.
Joe Steckler helping seniors of Brevard every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 o'clock here on WEJF 90.3 FM in Palm Bay.